Hi, KK. We're here today to talk about the new peer review Lite service to give our freelance team some more information on the product and how they can be involved with it. Could you just quickly introduce yourself for the benefit of the listeners?
Good morning, Mary. We're glad to be here. My name is Dr. K.K. Krishnakumar Venkatachalam. I'm the Innovation Officer at Inago and Publication Support, and I work with you closely for a special group of individuals who are, let's say, coming up with new services and products for Inago and Charlesworth Group.
Thanks, KK. And I am the Operations Director for Inago Charlesworth, and I've been working closely with KK and the team on the development and implementation of this product. So, KK, can you give some background to what the peer review Lite service is, particularly considering it against the existing Inago peer review services?
Hmm. Right. So before that, I'll just quickly introduce what Inago's publication support service is. So Inago is classically known for its copy editing, substantive editing, and similar editorial translation, etc. services. So publication support is sort of a overarching sort of an umbrella where we provide end-to-end support for researchers and authors regarding their academic publication needs. It starts from writing assistance all the way up until manuscript submission support. And the reason why I'm talking about it is that we have an existing peer review service, which is basically an emulation of the journal academic peer review. And in the last year or so, when we have reached out to clients as to what kind of new services that they would like in the context of the advent of, let's say, large language models and ChatGPT, they were of the opinion that because let's say large language models are able to provide language assistance to them, they want something other than the regular editorial support in general, and they were looking for something related to peer review, and that is what we are calling the peer review Lite service. So in a nutshell, peer review Lite is obviously a lighter service than peer review regular. And it basically, if you are a freelancer, and I'm expecting the audience to be freelancers generally go through manuscripts based on some standard conventional means or methodology for peer review. We break that down into small questions, and we let our own custom AI, let's say, application answer those questions for you, and those answers will be provided as assistance for our peer reviewers, and they can go through those questions while checking the manuscript and improve the responses provided by the AI tool, as well as annotate the manuscript. And unlike peer review regular, the extent of peer review is limited in peer review, right? So if the simple way to think about it is that the methodology, novelty, the depth of literature review, those questions, those points are not addressed in peer review light, whereas everything that academic peer review would cover would be addressed in peer review regular.
And KK, what is the rationale for Inago offering this as an alternative service to the existing peer review service already offered?
Right. So as I explained, when we interviewed our clients, when we met with our clients, they were of the opinion that they required other services other than copy editing, language sort of support, and they were interested in some sort of a peer review support. And we were on the side, we were developing our own AI applications for all sorts of academic purposes, and we have been developing an so let's say a review assistant tool for a few months now, and we decided to offer some parts of it. As I said, it's not such a in-depth review that a future review assistant might offer, but sort of a structured peer review generated using our own dedicated AI application that can be offered to the reviewer in this case. And the reason why we are doing this is that we think that the world is changing with the advent of AI. And I guess if you are keeping up with the news, you would know that a lot of peer review related automation is being talked about, and we wanted to take a first step towards addressing that, and while offering clients the benefit of, let's say, secure, dedicated, curated AI application for peer review.
Okay. And to help our freelancers understand more fully the differences in the expectations for the work they would complete for peer review light versus peer review regular, could you
Mhm.
share some more
Yeah.
detailed information?
Yes, sure. So let me share screen. So those who are wondering, there are two sort of my placeholders. One is another computer. I'm joining from the other computer. That's where there are three people and not just two people. I'm sharing screen from second computer. So Mary, I hope you can see this.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, as I explained, a peer review generally is a process where a reviewer goes through a series of checkpoints in relation to the, let's say, the novelty, that scientific rigor of the research study that is being evaluated. And there are several structured peer review methodologies or questionnaires available. So we have referred to all these questionnaires, and we have made a list of questions that are checked for original articles, and those are the ones that you're seeing right now. So these are about 42 questions across different sections. So title, improvement, abstract, background and literature, clarity of objectives, results, presentation, etc., etc. Going all the way up to methodology, replicability, statistical analysis, and novelty and originality, and generalizability of the findings. So in these, the questions from 25 to 42 are not part of a peer review Lite service. So basically, the first 24 questions, I would call them, they're relatively superficial, but they're still, the answers to these are still useful for the clients. So these are the ones that we are planning to address as part of our peer review Lite service. Would you like me to explain further?
So ultimately, you're saying there's just the first set of questions is what is
Yes.
being covered in peer review light.
Yes.
So can you just highlight which questions are not being covered in peer review light?
So those are the ones. Those are the ones starting from study methods and replicability onwards. So this section, for example, our study methods reported in sufficient detail, is the applicability of methods explained, etc. From then on, we go on to statistical analysis. For example, are controls appropriately used, or a question under additional statistical measures, are sensitivity analysis reported. Going all the way to generalizability of the findings, is the generalizability of findings well explained? And then to the depth of literature review, are the key citations missing in the field? This is, I would consider these are deep peer review questions. These are not as offered as part of a peer review light service. So these are the questions which I'm again just quickly going through the categories. We talk about the title, abstract and highlights, background in literature, but not as deep as the other questions that I showed you just now, clarity of the objectives, results, presentation, and interpretation of results and conclusions, and whether limitations are expressed properly, and whether it will be interest, the research would be of interest to the journal audience.
So you talked there about there being deep peer review questions. In terms
Mhm.
of the effort required to complete one or the other of the two review forms,
Yeah.
in what ways will the requirement be different, and how do you feel there will potentially be less um, time and effort required for peer review light?
Very interesting question. So the way that I would explain that, first of all, you have seen that approximately 50% of the questions or the checkpoints for a structured peer review are not covered in peer review light. So from that point itself, it is going to take less of your time. But remember, if you're doing a peer review all by yourself without any assistance, then let's say you take, let's say, I don't know, 3 hours or something like that. Whatever time that you take, you would take less time because of the AI report being of assistance to you. You would always have to familiarize, acclimatize with the manuscript that you're reviewing anyway. And after you do that, with the help of the responses provided by the AI assistant that I'll show you in a minute, you can quickly go through and then modify and add your own annotations to the AI's responses to the answers to these questions.
Okay, and are you able to show us that, KK?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm showing you is the final report that we expect to share with the client. This is still being worked on in terms of design aspects, etc. But it starts with the details of the manuscript, including the title, what type of articles, and the journal URL. And there is a small table of contents, and which explains what the report consists of. There's a summary of the score, which is basically, as I explained, there are 24 sort of checks that we are doing as part of this service. So AI determines, so I'll quickly explain this before I go back to the the explanation of what this is. So the questions that I mentioned, the 24 questions are these. These are the ones that the AI is being asked to respond. So our AI is not ChatGPT. If suppose somebody is wondering, we have our own secure, locally deployed large language models, which have been sort of trained to do this particular task using our, let's say, advanced prompt chaining, prompt engineering techniques. And so we are asking these questions, and the AI is giving us the answers in a tabular format. So what have we asked it to generate? The result of the question in the context of the manuscript. So we give instructions to the AI agent with basically the data is what is given as a manuscript and these questions, and we ask it to only answer these questions with relevant responses. So the AI is expected to give us a sort of a, I would say, a label whether this check is a pass, fail, or a warning. So that is this column, and why it thinks, the AI agent thinks that this is this is the right answer. And then if the AI is also asked to pick up content from the manuscript to support its its answer. So to summarize again, these questions are being sent, these results or let's say responses are received from the AI, and as a reviewer of a freelancer peer reviewers, you are expected to check these answers in line with these questions and then add your own comments to, I mean, you can be a disagreement with, for example, this could be a fail in this case, and you can change this, and then you can explain why you have done this.
And is that the full requirement?
Yeah, this is what you're supposed to do with the report itself. You are not going to be working on it. What you're going to be working on is an Excel version of this report that I'm going to show you in a second, which is pretty much the same thing. And I also explained what the number of checks and the percentages, the percentages that are shown here mean, right? So there are 24 questions, and depending on the answer, the AI plus human answer, let's say these in this report, only there was only one warning. All the other 23 were passes, as in the AI thinks that this manuscript checks out for 23 of the 24 questions, and that's why the score is 95.83. Now, if you as a reviewer feel that it is not a pass, maybe this is a fail, then you can change it, and accordingly we can change the score that is being shown to the client. Is that clear, Mary?
Yes, that's clear.
Right. So I think it is probably a little easier for everybody to understand how you would go about doing a peer review by showing you how I would go about doing a peer review, for which I have a manuscript loaded. So this is a manuscript. I think this is part of the samples that are being shown to the freelancers as well. But anyway, if suppose I were to be asked to do a peer review, I were to be asked to do it's a regular peer review, what I'd be given is a manuscript and then some sort of a template report that I'll have to fill. Anyway, so what I would be doing is to first skim through the manuscript. So I would start probably from the title page and take a look at this. So I've already sort of gone through it. I familiarized myself with the manuscript, so I'm not going to take a lot of time. But this is a pediatric nephrology related manuscript. It is about type 4 collagen related nephropathy and genetic testing approaches for the precise diagnosis of isolated hematuria. Hematuria is, I guess, if you're aware, blood in the urine of kids. So this is a study. Many authors from China seems to have worked on it, and the abstract I've already read through it. So I'll just summarize the abstract. The abstract says that hematuria is a common condition and in children, but it can be because of collagen related genetic diseases like type 4 collagen related nephropathy. But for diagnosing that, uh, I'd say kidney biopsy is required, and that's very expensive and time consuming, including whole exome sequencing. So these are the reasons why it is challenging as of now. So what the researchers seem to be doing is to do a sort of a genetic panel on the urine itself, sorry, on the oral mucosa itself, and then finding out if it's effective in identifying these children and eventually sort of making the differential diagnosis easier. Is that clear? Is that too complex for you, Mary?
No, I think I understand it.
Okay, great. So what I would do is to go through this and familiarize myself with the manuscript. And while I'm doing it, I would be annotating it. And so I'll show you an annotated copy of the manuscript in a second. So there is obviously abstract and then the introduction section. And methodology. I'm doing this to see if structurally the manuscript is intact, in the sense, are there all the sections, or is some part missing? And this is why I would do it. This is I'll probably take half an hour to skim the manuscript to make myself sort of familiar with the manuscript. So there is a results section, and I have not seen figure. Okay, there is a first figure, only one figure. It is within the results section. And then we have the discussion section, the conclusion, and we have the ethics statements, acknowledgement, funding, author contributions, and then the reference section. So I can notice that, well, the fonts are different. I think it may not have been formatted to the journal template yet. And I think at the end of the manuscript there, I'm expecting tables. Yeah, there are 1, 2, and 3 tables. So this is in general how the manuscript is. The last table is split into 2 pages. So that's a little awkward. Now, as I said, I've already gone through the entire manuscript and have annotated. So this is in a PDF file. You could be reviewing a manuscript in a Word document. So that's a different thing. So accordingly, you can annotate. I would strongly recommend reviewers to start annotating, to sort of take notes for themselves initially, and the notes that they can send to the authors. So I'll just now quickly jump to the structured peer review report. I've highlighted 4 questions that I have used. I'm planning to use as sort of a demo for this exercise, this call. So the first, the question would be, as I'm reading, the first thing that you generally read is a title. And the first question is whether the title is descriptive or concise, right? The answer that the AI has given is that it is a pass. The AI thinks that the title is great. The title is descriptive and concise, and it explains what the text is. Now, if I switch back to the document, as I mentioned, right, this entire thing, I think that this title is not as good as it can be, because it is still not mentioning a couple of key things. After having read the paper, I know that it is talking, the manuscript or the research is about Alport syndrome, and it is not explaining what the results were. That, for example, the genetic sequencing was done using oral mucosa. So I have noted a comment saying that the title is confusing. It needs to be phrased better, and the methodology, oral sampling, could be mentioned. This is my own note. And if I did not have any, let's say, structured peer review report coming in from an AI, I would still sort of make these comments. And this is what I want to reiterate, that if you are doing a peer review, you are anyway annotating the manuscript, you should be annotating the manuscripts, and whatever you annotate, you can pass it on in the manuscript itself or as comments, and you can add it back to the report. So for example, so in this case, I'm going to pick up this comment, go back to the Excel version of the report, and I'm going to add it, and I'm going to say this as a fail. So this is, I've overridden the AI's responses. Is that clear, Mary?
Yes.
Right. So as a second example, I have another question, abstract and highlights. So the abstract is clear and concise, providing an overview of the study's objectives, methods, and main findings. So I disagreed with it again, because I thought that the abstract, the conclusion section, I'll just read it to you. I've already explained what the study is doing. It is found that this oral sampling is actually quite good for detecting this type for collagen-related nephropathy. So it just simply says, the abstract's conclusion says that we present the high prevalence of variants of COL4A genes in a multi-center pediatric cohort with hematuria, which requires close monitoring and long-term follow-up. To me, this is not as a punchy conclusion section that I would want in an abstract. So again, I feel that AI has, let's say, missed an opportunity to label it as a warning or a fail. In this case, I'm going to choose warning for this. So I'm going to say something like, the summary of the results could be presented in the conclusion. And then I'm going to jump to the next.
KK, can I ask a question on that? You've changed the word to warning when previously there was only pass or fail responses.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
there are 3
acceptable?
options. In a report, AI can give you warnings, passes, or fails. So in this case, I am expecting the author, I mean, this is a warning in the sense it is clear from the results section that whatever they have done is there, but I would have liked them to make the change in the conclusion section of the abstract. Is that clear?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, great. So the the third question that I want to tackle is the clarity of objectives. Is the clarity of the objective satisfactory? So the AI's response says that while the primary objectives are clearly stated, the secondary objectives are not explicitly stated, which may lead to some ambiguity in the study's objectives. Now, overall, I think this is a good enough response. In this case, it is a warning to begin with, so it's a good thing. But what I would add is annotation regarding this. As I explained, the authors have gone and done a study, but the objective of the study is to probably also push the availability of oral mucosal sampling as a means for detecting incidence of type 4 collagen related nephropathy, right? So that is not pushed in the abstract as well as in the discussion section, and I can quickly switch back to it. I felt also that the discussion section was sort of meandering in the sense that they have repeated a lot of the results, and I would like some of these to be not mentioned in the discussion section, or at least in such detail, and to be summarized. So these are the reasons why I've annotated the manuscript like this. So these annotations will help no matter whether your responses in the report are different from that of the air. So keep on annotating the manuscript so that you can send that to the author as well. One last question I'll take here. So is there a need for additional tables of figures? So this is a question. So when I looked at the manuscript, when I did a sort of a deep reading of the manuscript, I found that this image was confusing. First of all, I thought the fonts could be better for me to understand this, and the presentation could be better. So this is something that I would, in a peer review, ask the author to reconsider and to present this information. This is the spread of the different genetic variants in the population that is being studied in a different presentation manner. So I think I might have inserted a comment accordingly. Typos in the figures need to be fixed and font size could be improved. So this is my comment. I could copy this and paste in the report, and I would probably change that to a warning again. All right, so I think these are the examples that I wanted to show you. And I'm going to switch back to the other report. All right. So if you are adding comments in this report, make sure that your username and initials are that representing you. So you should use peer reviewer as your username. And if you want to make changes, suppose you have a PDF manuscript to annotate, in this case, you can see that my name is mentioned here. So you can simply click on the properties and change that to, yeah, there you go. In general, you have an author name, so you change this to peer reviewer, and you should do that before you start inserting your comments, so that all the comments become like this, so that it is easier for us to send it to the clients. And I think one last thing that I'd like to show you at the end of the report, you have a section where you can type in your overarching thoughts for the manuscript, and that is these concluding remarks. So this is according to whatever you felt after you finished your review. In the Excel file, you can fill it under the main table in this section, in the reviewer's final remarks. So I would say, if suppose I were to write a review for it, I would probably say that this manuscript needs further improvement in some areas to ensure a successful journal peer review. Please check my comments in the report as well as the annotations and something like this. So you can add your concluding remarks here like this, and you can unbold it if you wanted to. Hope it is, yeah, right. So this is what you're expected to do, and in the peer review template that we send to the client, there are some frequently asked questions, and this is something for you as well. We will share this with you in a separate document. So what are the frequently asked questions? So the common question would be that, is it simply a report itself? Or what is the role of the reviewer? As I explained, the role of the reviewer is to look at, consider the AI as a generated review report as an assistant, and help yourself by looking at the comments and modify the reports outputs according to what you find based on what you see in the document according to the different questions that you have to answer. And the natural question that I would expect it would be what kind of AI that we are using, and that would be a secure, locally deployed large language model. And we are not sending out copyrighted or private information to the things like Google or OpenAI. So you can rest assured regarding that. Anything else, Mary, you would like to discuss before we conclude this?
KK, you've referenced both this Microsoft Word report and the Excel report. For the freelancer requirement, is it just to complete the Excel report?
Yes. So freelancers are expected to complete the Excel report, and the in-house team, operations team, would then convert into a Word document and send it to the client. Put it in the right template.
And you've also shown a marked up PDF of the paper. Would a
Yeah.
freelancer also return that document, or that is just for their own personal use?
So currently for clients, we are in our service checkpoints, we are stating that we will deliver a report, which is basically this for sure. But we also offer an annotated manuscript as an optional thing. And it's not mandatory for the freelancers to send it. But what I would recommend, if I were a freelancer, if I were a reviewer, I would always annotate as and when I'm reading the manuscript and checking for the peer review checkpoints. And that manuscript will be more valuable to the client. And I would always send that to our team so that that can be sent to the client to support the peer review report.
Great. Thank you for that clarification, KK.
All right, I'm stopping sharing right now. So, Mary, what do you think?
I would say if freelancers have any further questions on the requirements for the service, then they should contact us, the project management team, and we are happy to help answer any further queries you have. But hopefully, this walkthrough has given you extra context to the service, the need for it, the requirements of our freelancers, and we'll look forward to working with you all on it.
Yes, and as concluding remarks, I would probably encourage freelancers to try this service out because the landscape of academic research and related services is changing because of the advent of AI, and we are expecting a lot of peer review related changes in across the field. And this is probably one sort of way in which you can interact with a tool that is dedicated for peer review that we are trying to develop and explore how you can modify your workflows because you still need to stay relevant as an individual. There's a huge human oversight component to academic research, and that still remains to be intact. And this is how you can familiarize yourself as to how your role is changing in the context of the advent of AI in academic publishing. So use this as an opportunity to get into this new sort of world that we are getting into.
Great. Thank you, KK.
Thanks. I think it's